Hey guys, welcome on back to the Anchorage, and this is Anchorage Extras, and no fancy explosionary, facts at the beginning, stuff like that. This is actually going to be a combination of a Pi Quest and a Switch Quest video because it has to deal with one of my systems. It's a Raspberry Pi, and I wanted to let folks know that my latest project is in effect complete. And I want to show everybody what it's all about. So let's take a look. All right. So we are now currently looking at all of the Raspberry Pis. So we've got a 3 here. This is was a production machine of sorts. It was a production card 5 or so years ago. It is not anymore, mainly because this piece right here, which is the micro USB for power, well, it's wonky. It's a little wonky. It cuts in and out from connection, stuff like that. The solder joints probably just need to be reflowed, which is no big deal. Am I going to do that? I have no plans to. I don't need to. Then we've got the main area of the Raspberry Pis. The group is called Folkvanger, which is an Old Norse word, roughly translated, field of the people. Folk is people, and Vanger is field. So, folk field, if you want to call it that. But it's the field of the people. And that is actually an area that is administrated by the goddess Freya. Look up your mythical history of the Norse from way back in the day. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we've got a 5th one here. This is a Raspberry Pi 5 and is therefore called Folkvanger 5 because these are 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that is actually this section here, right here. If I pinch it right there, there's that Raspberry Pi right there. It's got a heat sink right here. And behind there, part of that heat sink is a CPU fan, which is right there. It doesn't have to run because it's not hot enough. So there we go. And I've got it on and running right now because I am using it today. And it's for Switch to Linux, and I'll talk about more about that in a little bit. It has a GPIO daughter card right here, which extends out to the side if I ever want to use the general input and output pins, but I don't really need to. And then we've got a little bit of a ribbon cable right, it goes up along here. I've got it threaded there. Goes up to the top where there is an OLED screen, and I'll lift up and show it to you real quick. There it is. And it just shows some system status of different types, temperature, things of that sort. And there we go. Back here, we can see we've got a couple of case fans. Yeah, they're RGB. And it's being the all the colors of the rainbow. It's therefore unicorn vomit, and I don't appreciate it, but I'm not going to complain because I need to find some just plain green RGB fans. That's what I would like, but it's not a pressing priority. And there's another fan on the top up in here. And so these two pull air in. That one blows air out. So I've got a positive pressure system going on here. More air is coming in than going out. And there we go. For the sake of, airflow. So that's good. And these are acrylic side pieces. There we go. Now, originally, when you looked at the video, this section was actually covered with the wood grain contact paper. I have removed it because I want to be able to look straight in and see the insides. It's a lot easier than having to pull it off to the side like that and leaving it because, geometric alignments of things, it's anal retentiveness. So, and I don't apologize for it. No. I'm just being me. So we got that. And I can power this on and off using the power button up top. If I press and hold it, we're going to see the lights change probably. No, it just says on the OLED screen it's powering off. And so it's shutting down right now. And when it's complete, we lose the lights and everything. And there it goes. So, and if I press and hold it again, it'll start back up. There we go. and it's rebooting and stuff like this. Now, the trouble with this case is with the use of that power button. Well, yeah, I can use the power button to boot it and shut it off, and it's all set up for that. However, if I shut it down from inside the Raspberry Pi OS software, it shuts off the Pi, but it doesn't tell the case to shut off the OLED screen or the lighting for the fans. Those will stay running. That's a design flaw. That's something that Ella Crow could work towards fixing. All it has to do is just send a signal to it to shut off. That's pretty much it. Not that difficult, but in either sense, there's that. So, Folkvanger 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There we go. So, why don't we go back to the regular view? Okay, so. Oh, okay. I'm glad to be sitting. Thank you. But anyways, coming on back. So the raspberries. I've got 5 Raspberry Pi computers up and running. One's a crypto miner for Monero, 2 are file servers, and the 4th one is my Pi-hole instance, blocking ads and other, naughty domains so that nobody here can see that stuff. And then, of course, you got that new box, the Folkvanger 5 and everything like that. And, of course, I had mentioned in the past, I've got a project for it, but just want to rehash a little bit. I started with the Raspberry Pi in 2017, somewhere around that range. This guy. You normally see this guy back there on top of the shelves. It's just standing up there to be like, hey, I'm here. What it is. So it's a Raspberry Pi 2, and it has, it looks virtually the same to all Raspberry Pis. This actually has an SD card in there with a build of that Minecraft server administration software / operating system. It's just for show. This is my first one. Its name is Aurora. And, of course, I had an Aurora as Folkvanger 2. But, I'm like, yeah, I no more with the single names and stuff like that, except for internal needs, stuff like that. I just change the host names, and everything's good. So there we go. And leave everything else the same. So, of course, I had 4, and then, of course, I got the Raspberry Pi 5 donated to me by Mythos from our Switch to Linux group and on Matrix. And I took it, and I'm like, well, it's the 5th one in the run, so why don't we just call it Folkvanger 5? So it's Folkvanger 5 and everything like that. So I actually also have, if I can find it here. Yeah, there's the topic, and there's that. So, yeah. So it is done, and it is running. So there it is. Which I think is pretty awesome. So it was great to get it all done and running and stuff like that. So what did I actually have to do to get it running? Well, I spent a day, the day before New Year's, so December 31st. I spent the entire day with some weird belief that I needed to have a Samba share. Because that's all I knew about, how do I access it from my machine, stuff like that. Well, you do it with a Samba share, blah, 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 stuff like that. And I spent the entire day trying to get it running. And then Mythos happened to throw up a screenshot of connecting by a server on my Linux box, Solaria. So that's running Linux Mint Debian Edition 7. Because I decided that Folkvanger 5, this Raspberry Pi 5, was going to be for use for switched to Linux. And that's why the border graphic looks like a mishmash between switch to Linux and the AnKorage. So it's a little mix there of the Anchorage background and the Switch to Linux background, and of course I've got Tux in the corners and all that happy joy stuff like that. So sorry for that confusion of all that mess, but I'm just like, this is serving as both. So there we go. Now, what am I currently going to be using Folklonger 5 for? Well, it is currently serving as a file server, so I can have all of my Switch to Linux files in there. I've got my assets, all of my graphics, which is mostly of what I've got going on here for my thumbnail stuff, because, this is kind of like, this is done using GIMP, and which is the GNU image manipulation program. Program. Yeah, I think so. I have to double check. Let me just see here. It just says GIMP 304, but well, duh, because I'm on Windows at the moment recording this. Sorry, but in Linux, you type GIMP from the start menu or your menu, and it comes up as the GNU program. So there we go. Anyhow, what I'm going to use this for the foreseeable future is going to be my file server for use with Switch to Linux. What do I want to do in the future if I can do it? I'd ideally like to get a Matrix server running on it. I tried to get the Unohost home lab software on there. I can get it installed just fine, everything like that, and it runs just fine. But then I'm like, all right, so what do I need to do in order to be able to forward signals over to it? Oh, well, I got to do all kinds of stuff regarding DNS and blah, blah, blah. And, and when it comes to DNS, I need to have like an A record, a subdomain, and then I have to do TXT records and stuff like that. I think I figured it out, but, it's just kind of like, having to sit down and focus and do that. My brain, with the way that it is, I can't really focus the duration or to the level needed in order to do it. And also there's port forwarding involved and all kinds of stuff. Email related items. I just can't focus on that type of stuff. I just need something where I can just go click, 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 put in a couple of values in a couple of places if needed, and boom, and just have it up and running. And then I can play with it from that point on. It literally has to be a 5-minute thing to do. It is not a 5-minute thing to do. Therefore, I cannot focus on it because I just can't get my brain to focus. Whatever. But in either sense, getting it set up for access as a file server was easy. Just pull up Nemo, connect a server, throw in the server info, boom, done. And I've got my file server. There we are. So anything beyond that is going to take a lot more work, and I'll really have to sit down, take a day, sit down, and it might take me days to get it done, but I can get it done. I just can't rush through it, and I just can't sit down and get it all done in one short visit. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there is all I can really afford to put the energy into doing things. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there, maybe 10 minutes. Around there. So that is for later on. Could I also do other kinds of servers? If I use the Unohost, yeah, I can. But since I've got my initial setup done and everything like that, I'm going to see what I can do with Docker, I think. Installing Docker, to my knowledge, is fairly easy. I can get it up and running, and then I can take it from there. So we'll see what's going on with that. So, but it's up and running. That is fun what I'm going to do with that. And, of course, I call it Folkvanger 5 because, network types, things, stuff like that. Now, on Switch to Linux, the mascot kitty cat, CJ, passed away before Thanksgiving. So, what did I want to do to try to well, I wanted to try to do something to remember CJ, cute little kitty, had his temptations, every weekly news roundup for the past few years. And I think I was actually one to actually kind of help start that tradition, I guess you could call it. Back when, what was it? Oh, I can't think of it. Discord. Excuse me. Sorry. Just had my memory. When we used to be on the Discord server for chat, I was on there and I used to say, hey, kitty, treats for the kitties, stuff like that. And eventually he started doing that. And so now it's a normal thing. So it's CJ, nice little cat. Has gone around the country a couple of times in the past few years. And how did I want to remember CJ? Nickname. Folkwanger 5 has a nickname. So I'd like to welcome CJ. I'm using the Star Wars styling of names, though it's SEA because I'm originally from the seacoast of New Hampshire. So, I'm from that area. And, Jay, because we have, Blue Jays around, stuff like that. No, that's no never. The J part is no never mind. But CJ, we have seagulls. CJ. So, and then we got CJ. Remember CJ? By naming it CJ as a nickname. So there we go. So, I'd like to say thank you and welcome to CJ. So there we are. And yeah, so that pretty much completes this AnKorage Extras. So thank you very much and Skál, and we'll talk to you later.